Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome again to another podcast episode on Talk Architecture with your host, me, Naziaty. So, this is like a filler podcast episode, but it is important and nevertheless a subject that needs to be thought about and reflected on as time goes by. Especially when we discuss about logical design and as opposed to emotional design, for example. And I was really thinking about maths and mathematics and why when I was a younger person in my teenage years, I was scared of maths. I was scared of maths as a subject, but I was interested in architecture. So clearly, there must be a relationship between maths and architecture. I just went into architecture and did what I needed to do, understand what I needed to understand. And I actually love to do design details. I actually like the technical part of it. So why am I should not be harping on being scared with maths, should I? So I just want to do some reflection on the relationship between maths and architecture today. So, as we know it, mathematics is the basis or the foundation for the language of architecture. Language means a means of communication, so yes, language of architecture. Without math, architecture as we know it, stable, functional, beautiful, and buildable, would not exist. The relationship is deep, ancient, and still evolving. Yes, if not, we can't do AI, can we? And produce architecture. So, number one, we talk about the core mathematical tools in architecture, such as geometry, proportion and ratio, measurement and scaling, trigonometry, calculus and statics, algebra, and coordinate systems. There is a lot of math and architecture in the work and the design work and building. In geometry, we talk about points, lines, planes, 3D shapes. And then we use this geometrical, what did they say? Euclidean geometry. Straight lines, circles, polygons, and also the nons, which is the projective and fractal geometry. We can even divert to art here with fractal design or fractal art, which is another interesting subject to compare the relationship between mathematics and art. But anyway, let's get back. So there are things like the creation of domes, the Byzantine domes, because of spheres, understanding spheres and arches, curves, understanding curves, grids, and even tessellations. So when you talk about proportions and ratio, that's sort of like got me really interested. But I didn't think about math when I was really interested in proportion and the golden mean, because I was interested in historical buildings. And I had traveled to a lot of countries and I had to teach architecture and even Islamic architecture and traditional Oriental, shall we say, Islamic architecture and architecture from Japan, China, Malaysia, in fact. So when we talk about proportion, what was this golden mean? Or we have it called the golden ratio. And this appeared in classical architecture and the Parthenon and many Renaissance buildings. So this proportion system that was then expanded in the Renaissance period, obviously, after the Antiquity had started it. So there's also the Fibonacci sequence and modular systems which create rhythmic, harmonious designs. Then, of course, something that we have to do, even as first-year student, measurement and scaling. So we need to how do we actually represent something that's going to be built 1:1 scale to a drawing form? So we need to understand how to do plans, sections, elevations, which are scaled drawings. And even they are not drawings for construction or working drawings. They need to represent accurately what we envision in terms of scale, and hence it has to be scale drawings. So under measurement and scaling, we have area, volume, and material quantity calculations. So there we go. This is the department of the quantitative surveyor, and it's very important to actually understand architecture in the basic way for the QS. And then we look at trigonometry just now. Trigonometry, obviously, the use for angles, roof slopes, structural forces. And I was quite fascinated with that mechanics, they call it, calculating structural forces, when I was doing some sort of foundation work, understanding, and even modern mathematics in school. Then we have the sight lines and perspective drawings. And going into deeper and much more, something that I don't like calculus and statics. Modern structural engineering relies on calculus to analyze loads and stresses in bending moments, deflection and stability. There's a formula to it. So architects and engineers calculate how forces flow through beams, columns, trusses, and shells. I always appreciate diagrams more than formulas. If I would study mathematics again and not be scared so much, I would do both. I would go and learn from a teacher that will show diagrams to simplify the understanding of formulas. So last but not least is the algebra and coordinate systems. A lot of this is used in working drawings. This is basic, coordinate systems, but also used in computer-aided design and BIM software with X, Y, and Z or Z coordinates. So parametric design, which is popular today, also uses equations and variables, so forms can change dynamically. So mathematics is everywhere and it's imperative in architecture. The relationship is as one and deep. Other factors with regard to this topic is also there are historical examples that we can share, and also that I mentioned as well just now, but specific ones. And then modern and contemporary relationship and some symbiosis. So I wouldn't want to go into that in detail. Maybe I'll make specific topics for that. But it's good to mention that historical examples that I mentioned just now, antiquity, Gothic architecture like flying buttresses and geometry for vaults, Islamic architecture, the use of tessellations, or shall we say, mashrabiyah. No, this is the other one. Oh, patterns on the walls. Muqarnas, yeah. and Renaissance like Palladio and Brunelleschi, which applied mathematics to get harmony. So modern and contemporary relationship, like we mentioned, is parametric design using tools like Rhino and Grasshopper, and optimization, digital fabrication, sustainability, mathematical modeling to find out things, complex geometries. We refer to projects like Guggenheim, Bilbao, and the Beijing Bird's Nest. So beautiful symbiosis. Architecture applies mathematics to solve real-world problems, like shelter, function, beauty, and safety. Also inspires new mathematics like minimal surfaces, fractals, or tiling theory. So we have architects such as Le Corbusier last time, and Zaha Hadid recently, and Santiago Calatrava, having strong mathematical intuition or formal training. I'd like to also mention about Christopher Alexander, who is also being an icon or a figure in computer programming, but he came from architecture. So in short, you can be an architect with modest math skills or basic buildings, but the best, most innovative, and structurally ambitious architecture has always been deeply mathematical. Well, that is a statement made by someone else. Mathematics gives architecture precision, efficiency, and possibility, while architecture gives mathematics visible, emotional, and human scale expression. Well, that's it's a marriage made in heaven, isn't it? When that is allegation. No, it is a statement, and you could agree or not agree with this. So mathematics also relate to music theory. So, mathematics and art and maths is not, it's separate from science. Maths is, can apply into arts and humanities, like music and architecture. And it stands on its own. It's beautiful. And it's very good to know about this. Thank you. Take care.